All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of MLS Monday. My name is Joanna, and I am your MLS manager for those of you who are attending an MLS Monday for the first time. Today, we are going to be going through listing input, really as simple as that, but there is a lot of research and time that can be put into it. That can be the tricky part, and you want to make sure that you do it the best way possible to get your sellers the most exposure, right? So the best way to do that is to fill out every field correctly, understand what that field is intended for and not intended for. Because on the flip side of it, right, a lot of us are using MLS for buyers. We're applying these filters to the MLS, setting up searches for our buyers. And you have to keep that aspect in mind when you're doing your listing input, what the intended use for it is, so that you can make sure that listing is landing in the right hands of the buyer and not getting filtered out incorrectly and missing an opportunity of that potential buyer. So what we'll do today is I will open up MLS. We are going to go through step by step, just simply putting in a listing. And all right, so as we go through here on the dashboard and go through every step in case this is your first time inside of MLS. So to get here, you can favorite your tools up at the top here on the dashboard. Yours might be blank if you've never done that before. However, all of your tools will display just like this down here at the bottom. So inside of the MLS, where you do all of your searching and find all of your data, is the same place where you're going to do your input for your new listing. Now, if my dashboard looks different from yours, this is because we've got a dashboard upgrade available, but the choice right now is yours. So at the top by your name, if you do the drop down, you probably see your dashboard as the classic mode. This may be what you see, but you can switch back here into the new dashboard, which fits your screen better. It works better on tablets and phones if you're on the go. All the boxes are still the same. All the data is still the same. It's just a new look. So, but we gave people the option because some people are, they get stressed with new things. So the option is totally yours. So when you are in here to add a listing, you're going to want to use this input button right here at the top. Now, the only option that you're going to have is listing input. You're going to see today that I've got a few more options on the admin panel than you have. But I do want to show you from the admin panel side the extra buttons so that you can see the other capabilities that you'll get throughout the different steps of putting in the listing, maybe adding an open house, making it pending, so on and so forth. So clicking the listing input button here, this is exactly what you're going to see on your screen as well. Now, the only difference may be whether you already have a listing or not. So for those of you who already have listings, or maybe you're the admin or the broker, you will have this drop-down box here because this is going to show you any listings that you currently have, whether they are incomplete, that's what that I stands for, the incomplete and the incoming, or if they're active, they'll have the A, pending, they'll have the P, pending with contingencies, PC, so on and so forth. If you have no listings in here yet and you're going in for the first time, this box will be missing, but that's fine because the only thing that you're going to need is that add new button, okay? Now, before we get into this add new button, the first step it's going to ask us is going to be regarding what type of property this is going to be. And I think this is another question that we get a lot in our MLS department, is the definition behind the type of listings that there may be. You'll see the same listing types up here in the search. You've got residential, residential income, residential rental, lot and land, commercial, and boat dock, okay? We like to refer to these as buckets in the MLS. So these are the different property type buckets that we offer for you to put your property in. Now, a lot of these are self-explanatory, but the one that we get a question a lot about are the difference between residential and residential income. So residential is going to be the specific types of properties that are intended just for residential use. So that's going to be your single family, your condos, your townhouses, your villas, manufactured homes, and those types of things. Residential income is properties that are intended to be purchased, but then rented out. So those are going to be duplexes, triplexes, and quadplexes are all going to go here in the residential income section. So again, properties that are for sale, but intended to be used as income properties. And then your residential rental properties are going to be anything you're listing for rent. Lot and land is anything that is vacant property. And here in Southwest Florida, we've got some very special, specific circumstances, unfortunately, due to hurricanes and different things like that. So if you have a property that is zoned residential inside of the property appraiser's office because there was a property on it, however, it's been possibly, the property's been removed due to hurricane, they've completely like taken the structure off the property. It's still residential because it still has the hookups and all the connections that your vacant property does not. So your indicator there, if you're confused, where does this go if you've got a special situation like that, is you want to look at the property appraiser's office and see how they have it zoned. If it's still zoned residential, it's going to go in residential. We have a box in there that says land value only. But if it's zoned vacant land and the property appraiser has either corrected it or changed it, then it goes in lot and land, just for those special circumstances. You then have commercial properties and boat docks here. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get this process started. And throughout the process, we're going to talk about the definitions of a lot of different real estate terms. And just for context, where that comes from in the MLS and the data industry is from the RISO standards. So RISO is the Real Estate Standards Organization. It's a nationwide organization that defines terms and what fields are allowed, not allowed, what we all want to speak the same language from Florida to California to New York to Midwest, because at the end of the day, we're all taking this data and feeding it out to syndication sites. Now, what we consider one thing, another state might consider something else. And for these websites that are nationwide websites to be able to communicate with all of us, we have to speak one data language. So kind of keep that in mind as we go through and we talk about the standard of what each field means. So we're going to start brand new here. We're going to click add new. And to make it easy today, we're going to go with residential. That is where the bulk of our listings are. However, if you are coming out here and doing any of these other buckets, whether it's rental or income, lot and land, all of these work exactly the same. So if you sit through this class when you do residential, you'll know how to work each one of these different buckets. They just sometimes have some different fields that they require. So residential is going to ask you a lot about a structure of a property. Lot and land is not going to ask you those questions, right? They have a lot less fields. The last one on here, though, the residential comp sold input. This is a feature that we have inside of our MLS for if you work to the buyer side to a transaction of a property that was not listed in the MLS, but you want to be able to put it in the system as a comp, and you want to be able to show your number, your sales numbers inside of Matrix. So once the property is closed, maybe this is something where, they were for sale by owner or it was new construction and it wasn't in the MLS, you can utilize this after it's closed as the buyer's agent to put that comp inside of the MLS, granted that you have all of the correct information to put in there. It does not feed out to syndication sites or anywhere like that. It just exists inside the MLS, but that is an option for you as well. All right, so we're going to click residential listing input. And what this is going to do is take us to a lookup form. This is not the input section. This is not what will show on the MLS. This is basically the system trying to find what property you're talking about, because we do have a feed with the property appraiser's office, whether it's Lee, Collier, or Hendry County. So it will pull in some very basic data for you. So think of this screen as a search. Therefore, less is more. If you put too many details, the property appraiser's office is very complicated. They're going to say, oh, nope, we didn't find it. So for this, less is more. We are going to take this route today when we do input, but I do want to point out that there are two other options up here. So first is fill from across property. What this allows you to do is fill everything from another MLS. Now, you can only use this if the previous MLS listing was yours. You cannot copy somebody else's MLS. That is a copyright infringement, and they will find you. But if you, let's say, listed a property and it expired and you're, a month later they want to put it back in and you're thinking to yourself, oh, I got to go out there and put this whole entire listing back in. Nope, you don't. You could put the MLS number in right here, click the fill button, and it'll take everything over. The only thing that it will not copy over is the property description and the photos. However, you can grab that from your old listing, easy peasy. But it will fill all those different details, all the check boxes and everything from your last property to make your life a little easier. The other option is to start with a blank listing. If we click that, it'll take us right to the input form and it will not fill out a single box for us. So you can use that option if need be. Maybe, you don't want it to pull from the property tax office if it is a special circumstance, but most of us like to start right here. So I'm going to go ahead and use this investment property as an example. And I'm going to just put in the owner last name. You can start to fill out, maybe they have a common last name like, I don't know, Jackson or Johnson, and it's going to pull up like 100 properties across the different counties. Maybe just put in the house number to keep it simple and filter it down, but you can put in a couple of things here and click search. For me, this, she's got a specific way she spells her last name with no E, so that's easy for me to pull this property up. However, if you were to click search and you have like 100 different properties and you can't find it, you can go back and revise your search and do what you need to do. Maybe it says, hey, you put in too many details, there is no property. Come back, either put more in, take more out, do what you need to do, go back to search until you find the property through the property appraiser's office that matches what you need. So this is the property that we're going to use for the example today. So I'm going to go ahead and click fill. Let me move the little control bar and see if we've got any questions yet. No questions. All right. So this is where the input process starts with all of the details. You'll notice running along the top here, we have several different tabs. We're going to go through all these tabs. They are broken out into the different sections for the different types of data and information that you'll need to fill out. But it will always start right here at the status section. What's important about this is incomplete's already highlighted. It's typically in gray when you're not clicked in there. It's in blue when you click into it. But as long as you keep, this highlighted, you can come in and out of this listing by clicking submit listing because it'll save it as incomplete. When it is incomplete, only you and your broker, if your broker has any admins in the office, only, those people will be able to see this. It will not feed it. No other realtor will see it. Nobody will be able to see it except for you. When you're ready for it to go live, that's when you'll click active and then click submit listing. Now, as we go through each of these tabs, what's important to know is if I were to click active right now, you're going to see this is going to light up like a Christmas tree. So if you were to go through and fill out these tabs and there was something that was required that you were missing, or maybe you filled it out incorrectly, meaning like, it's asking you for how many bedrooms and you put A, B, C, like, nope, it needs a number field, right? So for those things that are incorrect, it'll tell you exactly what tab you're missing. And then it'll also tell you exactly which field you're missing. So it's a good rule of thumb because I know it makes a lot of people nervous when you start putting this in. You're like, oh, what if I'm missing something? What if I didn't do like a correct field? It will go out here. Now, we're not going to run the information and say, yep, you put the right HOA amount. We don't have that. That's what you're for. That's your specialty. However, it's going to make sure that you filled out the boxes that are required before submitting. So we're going to go ahead and keep it on incomplete. And we're going to go through these tabs. And again, when it's incomplete, if you wanted to leave and come back, just make sure you click that submit listing button, because if you just leave, you may lose your data. So starting out with the general tab here, you can see that a good amount of information has already been filled out for us, which is great. And this is the information that comes from the property appraiser's office. So this is going to be basic information like the address, the geo area code. It's going to pull in the square footage, bedrooms, bathrooms, very basic information like that. It's not going to fill out the entire listing for you because, it doesn't know what type of flooring you have or the type of windows, that type of information is not there on the feed that comes from the property appraiser's office. But, PID, things like that. So in here, if you have a property that is new, maybe it's getting separated out, doesn't have a PID yet, You can choose unlisted PID, yes. However, most of the time you are going to have a PID, so you want to click no. And you'll notice as we look through these fields, some of them are bolded and underlined and some of them are not. The fields that are required for you to go live are bolded and underlined. The ones that are not bolded and underlined are just fields that are available to you, but not required. So going down through here, these are all address fields here. The address is dissected and broken out into different pieces. It's not just a street line, the street name, the pre-direction, post-direction, those are all broken out into different fields for better accuracy when it goes through that feed out to the other websites. City, state, zip code, geo area are pretty self-explanatory. Now, a lot of people who are new to the area, if you're coming from another state, geo area codes are a different type of field for you. If you don't know anything about the geo area codes, you can apply, like when you're searching in the MLS, if you open up the map feature, you can add in the geo area code layover, and it'll kind of put like boundaries around everything for you and give you an idea of the geo area codes. But if you're filling in from the property appraiser's office, it does that for you. So you do not need to be an expert when it comes to that. All right, development and sub-condo names. This is very popular here in Southwest Florida. We've got a lot of communities, and those communities are broken down into sub-communities. And this is where you're going to put those. Now you'll notice the development you can type in. You can start to type in here. So we'll use as an example Pelican Preserve, because they have a lot of communities. So as I start to type, now if I could spell, you'll notice that a pop-up list to choose from comes up here so that we can select it, knowing that that's a field that does exist. It's not going to let you type any name you want. It's going to come from a pick list, but you can also click the button here. It'll open up the entire pick list of the different communities that we've got placed here from the property appraiser's office. So once you select the main development, if there are sub-communities, they will show up here. So like I said, I like to use Pelican Preserve as an example because they have unlimited amount of sub-communities there. Sometimes you'll, put in a community, and if they don't have sub-communities, then just the community's name itself will be what pops up, but you do need to fill these two in. Now for the example that we're doing today, it is a home that's not inside of a community. So when it's not inside of a community, you simply put the, keep typing, you simply put the city name here. So we're saying North Fort Myers, and the drop down, all that you have for an option is North Fort Myers. So same thing, we get this call a lot for Cape Coral. They're like, well, it's not in a community. Well, then you would just simply put Cape Coral, and in the select down, Cape Coral. Keep moving along here. We've got building design. So this is the type of options that show up under residential. If you were in residential income, this is where you would see duplex, triplex, quadplex, those types of things. So if you don't see your type of home here, it's very likely that you're in the wrong bucket. So this one is a single family, but you'll notice that we don't just have a selection for condos. It's broken out into low rise, mid rise, and high rise, because we have a lot of people when they're searching, they want to be able to search by, some people are really just want the smaller buildings. Some people want that high rise downtown. So they've got those options to filter by. So this one is going to be single family. All right, builder product means that it is a product from a new construction builder. So for this, you would select yes or no. This is not a builder product because it's not coming from the builder itself. So that would be, if like D.R. Horton, Lennar, any of the builders out there, if it was a builder product, you would say yes. Now for builder name, you can put it here. If you selected yes, it's going to require you to put the builder's name in there. So you would say, Lennar, D.R. Horton, whomever the builder is. However, we've got a lot of people who are doing resale properties, and it's really, really important for them to put the builder name in there, right? Because they're prestigious, or, everybody's looking for people who are reselling a certain builder. You can still put that builder name in there so that when people search for a specific builder name by that builder name field, it will pop up. So let's say, somebody's selling a home that was a DR Horton build, but it's a resale property. It's no longer a builder product, but you can still put that builder name in there so that it'll show up for the resale listing. So this section here is all about the floors in the property, where that exact unit is, things like that. So a lot of people think this just pertains to the condos. It doesn't. It pertains to, we've got a lot of properties here in Southwest Florida that are 2-story, things like that. So total floors in property for this one is 1. Total building floors is 1. Units in floor 1. Units in building 1, units in complex 1. Now I get to put 1 for all of these because it is a single family home. However, if you were listing a condo, maybe that unit is on the 3rd floor and you would have to put how many units are in that building and then how many units are in the complex. So you've got a little bit of homework that you need to do there to pull that up. Maybe you need to call the HOA, figure out what those numbers are, ask your seller, they probably know, and make sure that you put all of that accurate information in there. All right, moving right along, the legal description comes right from the property appraiser's office. So if you need to pull that up, you would go for Lee County, that's lipa.org. And then we have in here the section, range, township, and unit number pull in, but you'll notice that the block and legal unit do not, and that's because that is very specific to Lee County. So on their feed, they pull in what like nationwide, what people use, but you've got to plug in the legal unit here. So you can find this on the property appraiser site, but a nice rule of thumb is to know that if you come up here to the PID, those numbers are what make up your PID. So if you look, you've got 014424E, 014424, and then 02 is the next number. So that is what we are missing here. So you can go through the PID to easily find those numbers instead of going out to LIPA and looking that up. I will, as an example, because we'll probably use it here in a minute, we'll pull up LIPA as well so that you can see this property side by side. So again, this is lipa.org for Lee County, or you can Google if you're working in a different county, find the property appraiser site. In here, we're going to do the property data search. And I am going to pull this property up so we can use it. It's really good to have this open as you're going through. I don't know what is up with this keyboard today. It's really good to have this up while you're doing an input at the same time so that you can reference to it for any information that you may not have. So this is what it will pull up for you on the property appraiser site. And we're going to go into the parcel details here. And this will show you, they've got like their little privacy policy here saying they can't be held liable. So this will be all of the property appraiser's information on that property as well. And you can see down here, it's got the township, the range, the section, the block, the lot, along with the square footage, bedroom, bathroom, all of that information is going to be here on the property appraiser site if there's anything you're missing that you need to find. All right, back into the MLS we go. So next row over, we have status type. In here is where you've got assignment of contract. So if you're practicing with assignment of contracts, you do have to disclose that. You can use that there. If this property has current known damage, that filter is here for you. So that would be, a hurricane damaged property that they did not fix up, that's just being sold as is. That is that status there. Land value only, we talked about this earlier. So possibly, it's still zoned residential in the property appraiser's office, but they've taken the property off of it due to hurricane damage, fire, things like that. You can classify this as land value. And then we've got 3 different types of construction here. You've got new construction, pre-construction, and under construction. So pre-construction means the permit's been pulled, but they have not broken ground. It is a requirement in order to put any kind of new construction in the MLS that a permit has to be done and approved, because it's going to ask you in that next field here for the permit number. So if you choose any kind of construction, it's going to require that permit number, okay? So if you just have a concept going and you haven't filed a permit yet, you cannot put that property in the MLS until you've got that permit number. So pre-construction is where you would start once you've got the permit number, but no ground has been moved. Under construction is once you break ground through the whole construction process. And then new construction means that you've got the CO for the property and it's ready to go, it's ready to move in, and nobody has lived in it yet. So that does not mean, oh, well, somebody moved in for 6 months and now they're reselling it and I still want to consider it new construction. No, nobody can have lived in it yet and it must have its CO. Where most of our properties fall, however, is resale property. So we're going to select that for this. And that just simply means, somebody came to you, they said, hey, we want to list our home. You put in the MLS, it's got no known damage. It's not new construction. That's your resale property section right here. All right, again, that next line there for county permits, if it is a new construction or under construction property, your listing price will go here. You want to make sure that you type that whole price out. I know that when you search, sometimes you don't have to put in all of the zeros, but make sure. We get a lot of people who call because they forget a zero, and maybe instead of listing it for $350,000, they list it for $35,000, and it messes up the history on the property. So double check that when you're putting it in. Your bedrooms, this is a pick list that you can choose from. So it's got the dens in here, or if you don't have the den, then the whole bedroom option there. Your bathrooms, so you've got full bathrooms and half bathrooms. Make sure that you don't just put everything in here under full bathroom. This property only has one, but if you had, one full bath and one half bath, you would put it in the MLS like this, 1 and 1. And then it will do the math when it displays for you and show 1.5 bath. Den flex means that there would be a den on the property. So you can say yes or no for that one. The square footage does pull in from LIPA or any property appraiser site, wherever that property is at. It will pull that in for you. If you are doing a new construction and they have not corrected maybe they don't pull it in, or it's not loaded yet, maybe you have something different, you can change this number. However, you'll notice running along the right-hand side here, your measurements of where you got the information have to be checked off. So if it's pulling in from LIPA or any other property appraiser site, you would say property appraiser's office, right? That's where the information came from. But if it's a new construction, special situation, you would want to say where you got that information from. Is it the developer brochure, condo docs? Where did that information come from? Moving down along this way, number of ceiling fans, especially for those of us that have people who are moving in from up north, the ceiling fans are really, really important, and how many are in the property. And then the furnishings. So is it coming furnished? Is it negotiable? Is it only partially furnished? Is it turnkey, or is it unfurnished completely? Another big question we get is, what's the difference? Like, what is turnkey and what is furnished? So furnished would mean just the furniture that's in there, but not all of all the other pieces. Turnkey means they get absolutely everything. They put the key in the door, they open it, everything that is in that house goes. And that's, typically all the dishes, the linens, things like that. So do be careful with which option you're choosing, because we see like a lot of liability issues come through with that of, people arguing over what's coming with the property, what's not. And a lot of times they refer back to what you put in the MLS. All right, is cable available on the property? Is there an elevator on the property? How many garage spaces are there on that property? And is the garage attached or detached from the property? And carport spaces, you'll see that a lot more with the condo buildings, things like that. But we still have them, manufactured homes, some single family, it's a carport rather than a garage. And same thing, is it attached or detached? All right. And if you put 0, that makes sure you leave that blank. Rear exposure. So this is a very, very important one, especially because we're in Southwest Florida, where their balcony, their lanai, or their pool faces is really, really important for how much sun they're going to get. Are they going to get sunrise? Are they going to get sunset? So this is a required field. If you don't know what it is, simply open a map. There's even one right here for you to click into. If you click on setting it manually, you'll see here, I can look at the property automatically north, south, east and west. So we can see here that the property is south facing, and the rear of the property is south facing. All right. Make sure that's correct. Continuing down, year built, that's pulled in from the property appraiser's office. And then pet limits. So if this is just a single family home and it's not inside of a community, most of the time you are going to say no approval needed. However, if it is in a community, make sure you look at your HOA docs and say, are they not allowed? Is it with approval, or are there just limits? So if you select anything aside from no approval needed, if you choose limits, not allowed, or with approval, these fields will then become required. All right. So what's the weight limit? Are you only allowed one pet? Are you allowed 5 pets? Is there a limit on breeds? Do they exclude certain types of breeds for those animals? Maybe they say cats only and no dogs, or, they limit the type of dogs that are allowed there. And then anything else, this field will not be required. But if you needed to put some other detail of, maybe they have a really weird rule that doesn't fit within these standards, you can type that here. Your lot sizes, the back, front, left, and right of the property. These are required for you to fill in. It does not come directly from the property appraiser's office, but we do have a lot of tools that you can use to find those measurements. Or I believe if you come out to the property appraiser site, sometimes they'll have it in here. This tab that says property details, if you open it, it gives you some very basic details. Let it load there. However, if you come in and you click this little icon here, you'll open this up to what the property appraiser's pick list is. And you can see there is a lot of details in here. They have like the structure size in here. Sometimes they'll have the lot size in there. But if not, my favorite rule of thumb is to go to Remind. The Remind tool inside of MLS. We'll pop over here really quick. The Remind tool, if you pull up the property on there, they have a parcel map that will give you all of the sizing that you need as well. I believe Realist has it, RPR has it. A lot of the tools have this, the lot sizes on there if you don't have them already. All right, in an odd place hidden in here is the virtual tour links for you to put in. If you've got virtual tour links that are unbranded, you can put them right here in the MLS. And then the owner information pulls in from LIPA, and then the type of ownership that they have to that property goes there. School information for the closest schools to that property also can be typed into these, and you can type whatever it is that you want to type in these. It's not from a pick list. So again, we talked about this running down overall along the far right-hand side is going to be where you got that information from. So the square footage, the lot dimensions, the lot sizes, where did you verify that information? All right, that first tab is always very complicated. It's the detailed information for that property that you've kind of got to pull in a lot if you don't get it from LIPA. The next tabs I like to think are a lot easier. So first and foremost, you've got room sizes. You can add in any type of room, the length, the width. None of these are required. However, again, the more information you fill out, the better it is for your seller. We've got a lot of people that search by the room lengths, or sorry, the room sizes. Because they've got specific furniture, and especially if they are coming from another state, like they're just not going to bother unless they see the room sizes because they want to know what's going to fit. So you can add more rooms by clicking more, and you can see here it will just continue to add in, so you can select the different rooms and put those sizes in. The next tab is features. Now, I'm not going to go through every single one of these boxes with you guys. We'll be here for hours. However, this is where your specialty as the realtor comes in knowing the property and how it's going to be best represented. This entire tab here is all check boxes. So you don't have to get too creative. You can figure out what each box means by looking at the checklist. But it does go on for a very, very long time here all the way to the bottom. But this is all the features of the property and the community. So amenities is where a lot of the community stuff is at. You'll notice that there is a spot for you to put the terms of approval. Are they willing to accept FHA? Are they willing to accept VA, things like that. There are a lot of features in here, the golf membership, exterior features, interior features. the appliances for the property. All of those small little features go in here. I will tell you, make sure you go through all of these with care. Don't just come to one of these and select the first thing you think matches. It's important to check off all the features and not miss anything, because there are a lot of people that filter by these boxes, right? So a lot of people, maybe they're just looking for metal roofs. You might think they're little weird details, but they're really, really important to the buyers. We see a lot of people filter by exterior features. You can add fence. The property has a fence. Your people with dogs, they're filtering by that. If you just look at exterior and the first thing you click is like, yep, it has trees, and you don't look through the rest of the list, well, you're missing out on people who are filtering by fence. So golf access, waterfront access, those types of things are in here. I will tell you, if your community has golf access or waterfront access, make sure you put that in amenities, especially for the condo buildings. That belongs in an amenity. It's not attached to the property. So that is for things that are attached to the physical property. If you guys have any questions on these fields, if you've gotten hung up on anything, do put it in the Q&A. We can come back and talk about a specific field here. But this, this is just a lot of check boxes. Go through, read it all. And if you do get stuck at any point when you're putting in your first listing, first and foremost, every single box has a question mark button here where you can click it and it'll explain to you whether it's required, not required, and what that field does mean. So if you're stuck, you're like, I have no idea what they're asking for, click the question mark. If it doesn't help you, you can call us, you can email us. We're here to walk you through every step of the way here in the MLS department. All right, my mouse is dying. All right, next step, financial tab. This is where all of the tax information is going to go. So that will pull in from the property appraiser's office. Your tax district type. If you look up the tax bill on the property appraiser's site, you'll be able to see, like, do they have CDD fees? Do they have municipal service tax fees? Most of the time we see a lot of people click not applicable, but check with your seller and do check the tax roll and make sure they're not getting charged for these, so that you can disclose if they are or not. And then any kind of tax descriptions. Are they getting a homestead exemption? Is it just city and county? Is it county only? These are types of things that you can also find on the tax bill inside of the property appraiser's office to disclose. A lot of times, especially with homestead here in Lee County, you want to disclose that because the buyers may buy the property, not get homestead, and then their tax bill goes like through the roof and they freak out. The first person they're calling is their buyer's agent, the seller. They just want to scream at somebody. So make sure you disclose that up front. These next columns here are a lot about the community. So if it's in an HOA or if it's got condo fees, things like that, this is where all the financial fees come in for the HOAs, any kind of application fees, transfer fees, things like that. So talk to your seller, talk to the HOA, read through those HOA docs and make sure you fill these out correctly. At the bottom of this column, however, a new field we have, a newer one, I should say, is seller flood insurance, yes or no. You are simply just disclosing whether the seller currently holds flood insurance or not. That helps give the buyer an idea of whether they will be able to obtain flood insurance or not, and give them an idea of where the seller stands. So just, does the seller currently have flood insurance? At the bottom of this column here, after you go through all of the HOA numbers, subject to FERPTA is for if you've got any sellers that are FERPTA, so those are for your foreign investors. So make sure you ask your seller on that. Don't just guess, because that you have to disclose that up front, because there's a whole process involved for the buyers to go through if they buy something through a FERPTA seller. Housing for older persons, you have to disclose this. This is a required field. So that's for your communities that may be 55 or older, 65 or older, if they have an age restraint on the community. So housing for older persons, if they do have an age restraint, you're going to click yes. If they do not have an age restraint, then you're going to click no. And it looks like we've got a question. Specific question about single family properties for investment purposes. You can search residential income for duplex, but not for single family homes to rent out. Is there an easy way to search for that? Thank you. So the filters that you have between residential and then residential income does not mean, like, the definition behind it is not like this is an investment property and this isn't an investment property. It's just for the type of builds of home. So if somebody's searching for investment properties that are single family to rent out, what you'll want to do is build your search around, you'd still go to residential, you would select single family and then build that search out for what it is your buyer is looking for. So if they're looking for something to rent out, you've got the leasing here, filter by number of leases per year or days of lease if there are lease limits. So if they're looking for something that's not restrictive, you can choose there are no lease limits. Maybe they want a property that they're going to turn into a VRBO or something like that. You would choose no lease limits when you're searching for property. And then if maybe they're looking for an annual rental, you would want to say, anything that allows leases per year, maybe like 2 or more. So you would put 2+, or, what fits their parameters for lease limits for that income property. You're still going to search single family home, but you're just going to fill the parameters for what it is they're looking for to do with that property. All right, so then if we keep moving along, after housing for older persons, subject to lease means there's already a lease on that property that they would have to respect. So if there are tenants in the property, they've got 6 months left on that lease, it would be, yes, it's subject to a lease and you've got to take that lease on. If they don't have a lease on that property, then you can simply click no. Lease description, if you click yes, is it annual or is it short term? And then when does that lease expire that's currently on the property? Last but not least is ownership interest. This is your disclosure for if you have personal interest in that property. So listing agent has no interest, listing agent is related to the seller, listing agent has ownership interest, or business relationship. Business relationship would be like, if you're in the LLC with them or if you own it, depends on how you've got those documents written out. But as you know, it is required as a realtor through ethics to disclose. Do we have any other questions? No, to disclose if you are related to the property or if you own the property. So that's right here where you would have an easy way to click that for disclosure. Our next tab is syndication. So this tab shows the type of syndication that you're going to get on the feeds. And the reason in here that we've got the foreclosures, short sales, and auctions is because there are certain feeds, there are certain sites that don't allow the foreclosures or the short sales or the auctions. So you would disclose that up front. And then you've got listing on the internet, yes or no. So this allows you to choose, maybe due to security reasons or, safety for the seller, they say, hey, like put it on the MLS, get it out there to the realtors, but like, I don't want it going out onto any sites. I don't want it feeding all across the internet. I know it seems wild for those of us that, that's our biggest selling point. We're like, I'm going to put it in the MLS and you're going to be on 100 sites. We're going to get it sold. But there are special situations where you would not want that. So you can choose whether it's going to be on the internet or not. If you want the address on the internet or not, again, that could be for safety reasons. There are certain sites, though, if you say no, they're just not going to take the property at all. So if you select no, and you're like, hey, why isn't it on like abc.com? Well, probably because you selected address on the internet, no. Some of them will take it and scrub it for you, but it just depends on that website's capability. So same thing for this. The virtual office website allows for like commenting, blogging, things like that. And then do you want the website to be able to show the AVM or VOW? And again, this is where you can click the question mark button. If you're like, what does that even mean? Automated valuation model is what that is. So for a lot of you who like hate the word, I'm going to use it, but this would be for like your Zestimates or, when you go to a website and the website says, we think the property is worth 200,000, but they listed it for 600,000. That's what that button is there. So you can turn off those estimated of property. Again, they might choose not to display your property, or they might just scrub that information. That is, a choice from website to website. You can then select which ones, if you don't want it to go to homes.com or you don't want it to go to realtor.com, you can select some of those sites to take it off if you want. Listing on MLS Advantage, yes or no? That is the statewide MLS feed that we do have, that you have access through, that Florida Realtors hosts for us. So if you don't want it going out statewide, you can say no to that. Listing office and agent, this is where it will automatically put your name, but maybe you're co-listing it with somebody. You can add their name here so that they display with you, and then they will have access to that listing. If you are an admin or a broker and you're doing this work for somebody else, you can change out the number that's in here. It's usually easier to click find an agent, run that search, click their name, click the fill, and it will then pull that information in there for you so that you don't have any kind of hiccups with the numbers. Let it auto populate for you there. The listing date, this will match what is on your contract, and you can click the calendar and then click the date. It'll put it in there for you, or you can type it out. The expiration date goes right here. Again, that should match your listing contract exactly. I will tell you if it's ever reported to us that there is incorrect information or something is in question, the MLS has the right to request the listing documents. So do make sure you put the right information in here, because it is a violation to misrepresent that listing contract. Showing appointment required, yes or no? That's a simple one. Your showing appointment phone number, if you're using one. Showing instructions, you've got a lot of different checklists here that you can use. You always can click other or see remarks below and put, if you've got a special situation like, hey, don't let Smokey the cat out, she'll try and run, it's their favorite cat. Those types of things you can put in confidential comments so that only the realtor sees it. Target marketing is something that is not used by our association. It is only for the other associations, which we data share with right now. That would be your Naples Association and the Bonita Association. Listing type. So this is based on the type of contract that you signed with them. Is it an exclusive right to sell? Is it limited service? What type of agreement do you have with them? And then you've got the type of representation here running along the left-hand side. So is there a sign on the property with seller contact info? We see this a lot with the limited services. So limited services will say, hey, we're just going to put it in the MLS, but we're not going to offer you representation. Typically the actual seller's contact information will be on the sign out front. When they say seller, they don't mean you as the realtor, they mean the seller. Should they contact the seller directly for showings, or are you contacting the realtor for showings? Will the listing broker be available during the contract process? And will the listing broker be available for post-contract services? Will they be at the closing? Will they be assisting through that process? This gives the realtor an idea of who they should be contacting and what that process is going to look like to close. Last but not least on this tab, we do have the settlement agent's information. So this would be the title company, the law firm, whoever is going to handle that closing, so that when you have a buyer's agent writing the offer, they can put that information into the contract. All right, remarks, the popular spot. So we've got in here property information. This is what does feed out onto the public sites. This is what will be displayed as the property information out on all of the websites. So be careful what you put in here. We do not allow anywhere in any of these boxes any type of branding, call to action, or anything like that. Confidential remarks are only going to display to the realtors inside of the MLS. And then driving instructions for if especially if you've got properties where maybe the GPS isn't right. This kind of helps them find the property as we used to before GPS. What is most important that I tell you guys in these fields, it counts for anything inside the MLS, but you'll see here in bright red on every single box, commission and compensation is not allowed in the MLS. It is a $1,000 fine. It is not, oh, hey, oopsie, I made a mistake. The moment you put in here, I'm giving you 3 bananas if you bring me a contract. Whatever you put in here, it is a $1,000 fine. So don't hide it in anywhere. Don't try to get sneaky and say, oh, we're going to give, money towards buyer agents. It doesn't matter what you put. If there is money being communicated for the buyer's agent in any of these boxes, any field on the MLS, it is a $1,000 fine. So do make sure you don't put those here in these boxes. All right, so that is the last tab that you guys will have. I've got a few admin tabs here, but you guys can just ignore those for now. That is the last tab. And again, once you've got everything here filled out, you can come back to status, you can click active, submit it, and that puppy will go out on the MLS and to all the sites. However, when you're first putting this in, you might be saying, wait a second, we haven't talked about photos, we haven't talked about attachments, anything like that. So what you're going to do is, if it's your first time opening up this listing, come back to the status tab, save as incomplete, and submit the listing. So you'll see right away, even though it's incoming or incomplete, you've got an MLS number now. And now you've got these different options, right? You can go right to adding and editing photos. You can add and edit these supplements. You can go to form simplicity. You can manage your showing time instructions if you wanted to use showing time as the showing feature. But let's say I got busy. I just wanted to do a little bit of input. I left and then I came back to the MLS. You would come back to the dashboard and again, go to input, and you would now have this drop down selection here. So if we click into the one that we were currently editing, you'll notice that your screen now looks different. You've got a lot of different options compared to just the tabs that we had prior. So you would come into residential listing input, and this would bring you back to where we would before. Everything is right there. However, what you want to do in here is to manage photos or manage supplements would be your next step before making it live. Managing photos will bring you to this upload screen. And you'll notice we've got this checkbox here. We've got a feature added to you as a member benefit where the photo captions will auto-generate for you with a program called Recipe AI. If you don't like the AI generated captions, you can simply shut it off before uploading the photos by deselecting it. But I'm going to keep it on so that you guys see how this works. So we're going to click Browse and select some photos that I've got downloaded onto my computer here. And I click Open. And the photos will automatically start to populate there on the bottom as they upload. And you can see that the AI has automatically chosen what the type of room is, and then it's filled out the caption for me. So you can use the AI and then correct it if you want to, or you can just shut it off. I've had like 95% accuracy with these though. They're, very, very accurate. You can see it's got the bathroom selected right away, bedroom, the bar in the kitchen, living room, pool. And this says view of a pool with the outdoor lounge area, patio, water view. I know you can't see it because it's super tiny. There is a water view back there that it picked up. Glass enclosure over here. So it picked everything up, but if you wanted to, you could edit that. You can keep it the way you want. If you want to move anything around, you use the top bar. Don't click here. Make sure you click on the bar and you can drag and drop it into whatever order you want. We're going to click certify and save. Once we're done, we've got everything where we want. And this does take a second sometimes, depending on how much you've uploaded. And I clicked it too many times for you guys, but make sure you only click it once. So we'll go back in here. All right, so your other feature in here is to manage supplements. That's going to work very much like the manage photos button, except you can label what this is. So maybe it's the property disclosure, maybe it's the HOA rules and regs, whatever it is. You label it here. You choose your file to upload by clicking that button. And then you can choose the supplement type from the pick list here. If it doesn't fit any of these options, we do have an option here that says other. Coming back to our options here, the other things, especially once you make it live, what you'll want to do is make sure if you ever wanted to do an open house, you use this open house button here to list your open houses. It'll feed out as well to all of the sites depending on what type you choose. So if it's just a broker one, it will not feed out. If it is a public one, it will feed out to all of those websites. And if you have multiple open houses happening, you can click more here and you can list. I think our max is like 30, and I would be really surprised if you hit that max. But as the old ones fall off, you can delete them if you ever do run out of space. You just are required to put the date, the time, once you're ready to make it active, you'll say yes. If you're not ready to make it active, you can say no, and the type. But you can, if you want to, put some remarks in here. Maybe you say, hey guys, we're gonna have pizza and drinks available to you. That will go here. If it's a virtual open house, that link will go here, and you can select whether there are going to be refreshments or not. Now, this is the bulk of, as we are right at 12 o'clock, the bulk of your listing input, going through all of the details, how to fill that out. I know it can be a lengthy process. I know sometimes some of the fields can be confusing, especially if you have a special property. So I would tell you, if you run into any questions, you have any issues, like I said before, just give us a quick call. We can walk you through any of those boxes. If you get stuck on something, maybe it won't take your photos, technology is not always easy. But we're here for you guys to walk you through that process. I'm going to leave the Q&A open for another few quick seconds. If there are any specifics that you guys have gotten stuck on through the process, we can cover those. But other than that, that is your entire MLS input in an hour. I know we kind of did some speed talk there, but I appreciate you guys so much coming out today. And if you need us, again, you can call us or you can email mls@rpcra.org, and we'll be able to help you out with that process. All right, guys, have a successful week. Thank you.